Tabitha Clark, you are so welcome to AI6. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much, Joanne. I've been an admirer ever since I saw you in Las Vegas last year, and so delighted to be here with you.
Well, listen, isn't it great to meet people in person and to keep those relationships up? So, tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about you because our industry is similar, our work is similar.
Yes, absolutely. So I have been in government communication in various capacities for the past 16 years. I started off as the first PIO of a local law enforcement agency. I then went to K through 12 public education in their comms department. And now I work at the city of Perry in Georgia, which is a smaller local municipality. We have about 27,000 people now, but it is rapidly growing. So I am also APR certified, accredited in public relations, which has been an amazing credential. It talks about strategic communications. Your peers review it. So it has been a wonderful, wonderful lesson to go through. And the big news with me, I guess, is that I am actually starting my master's program on Monday. So I'm going for it all. So I just absolutely love the communication world.
Well, you know what? This is a brilliant move because as somebody who's been in communications for 16 years, I'm in it now, 20 plus. How many
Hmm.
times have we had to pivot? Because if you stand
Absolutely.
still, you're going to be completely irrelevant. So what's the master's in?
Yes. Oh, so the master's is in public relations, and you're absolutely right. Is we are constantly having to learn new things. It's not like everybody does in every profession, but it seems like in communications, it's like if you are not a constant learner, you don't know what is happening or staying relevant. And that is another reason I always said I was never going back to school. I did been there, done that, but I just feel like that is just another opportunity for me to be a valuable asset in the communications profession.
What I would also say is communications is a tough industry right now. In the early days of our career, we had journalists and we had us, and then we
Yes.
had the public who were receiving their news and information from mainstream media. Now the pendulum has swung.
Oh,
And
yeah.
would you say that the public are almost driving the narrative now on social?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that continues to pop up, and the one thing whenever I talk to others in the profession is everybody has a different way they receive communications now. Like you said, the mainstream media. I mean, when I started out 16 years ago, that was just, it was the media that you did your press releases, all that kind of stuff. You did your interviews, but now we're expected to not only just use the mainstream media, but also the social media, and all the communication channels not only that are here now, but are expected to use the ones that are in the future as well.
So now working for a local government agency, and you say 26,000 is small. I'm from Ireland and we live in small towns and small cities, so
Hmm.
I can definitely relate to that. But
Yes.
how is communications changing now with the advent of AI? Have you guys embraced it, or is it still slowly?
It's still slowly as far as organization goes. I do feel like myself, I mean, I am fascinated with AI. It slowly kind of crept in where you heard about it a couple years ago. And I'll be completely honest, whenever I first heard of AI, I was like, nah, that's a little too technical for me. I don't think that's gonna be a techie thing. But then I started realizing it was all around us. Netflix, whenever they do the recommended shows for you, that's a simple example that we don't even think about. And I started looking into it and I was like, I can do so much. And it started off really simple. I was training our department heads and staff a year ago, about AI because it was becoming more and more. And I kind of saw where, hey, this is probably something we need to look at. And it started off with, "Hey, this is how you can use AI to write more professional emails." I look back at that right now, where we're standing now, and think, what a joke. It is so much more than writing professional emails or rewriting kind of spicy emails you want to send out to, your customers or your citizens. But using AI, for me in communications, I mean, it's really about how do you use it um, in a way that is more meaningful, not just writing um not just writing emails, or trying to make something look pretty, but how can we use it for research, for strategic thinking? And that's what we're trying to train our local municipality on. That is, it's so much more. It's a time saver, productivity. And like you said, and I always quote you, Joanne, is saying keep the human in the loop, talking about, yes, it is productivity saver and enhancer, but we also have to make sure that what we are producing is still relevant to us, always making sure to double check that information, and, making sure we put our own personal spin on it. And that's kind of what we are slowly trying to integrate into our municipalities and, our organizations within the Middle Georgia area as well. It's just making sure that we know that it can be used for so much good. But how do you do that? That's the question.
And local government teams, as I learned, but it was no surprise to me, are in the States and really across Europe are small. They're often under
Yes,
resourced. You have to multitask and you have to learn on the
absolutely.
job. But I think comms people are perfectly placed to lead AI in organizations and show the use cases. So when you're saying to me, listen, I was training my colleagues a year ago, you've become that AI influencer, right? And I have absolutely no doubt that your master's in PR is going to have many AI elements. But of course,
Absolutely.
comms and storytelling is human. You know, the AI hasn't lived our lives. They don't have the instinct that you have. Are
That's
there
right.
still some people dragging their feet over AI and just
Oh,
paralyzed by fear?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's change is hard, and change when you've been doing something a certain way, either, I mean, let's be honest, some just don't have the willingness to learn. They're like, I've done it this way for so long, it's been successful. But that's a golden opportunity in my eyes to where you can go, okay, well, let's look at your workflow and let's look at your pain points and let's see how AI can help. And this is an easy way for you to dip your toes into it, or, because not everybody needs to be an AI expert, of course. I mean, we'd love to be. I think we nerd out really good about, what AI and its capabilities and how far it's come. But for people, that are, of course, wary of it, of course, I think see that as an opportunity for us to go, let's do it small, step by step, because you actually have this treasure trove of a system information that you can use that actually would make your life easier. And I think if we do that in small bites for those that are kind of wary of it and dragging their feet, I think that that's one way that we can help them.
Yeah, you're dead right. Identifying the workflow and the pain point is the starting point. And I
Mhm.
see a lot of your own thought leadership stuff on LinkedIn and your own writing. So are people now kind of coming to you and looking for your counsel and looking for your advice and guidance? Because I'm on a mission to have more people on the side of AI for good as
Exactly.
opposed to AI for bad. And what we've seen with Grok this week, I'm sure
Oh,
Grok
yeah.
and that scandal has hit the headlines in the US.
Yes.
We need to recruit people who are on the side of human integrity and human preservation. So are people coming to you by virtue of you kind of talking about AI?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of opportunities come through. With LinkedIn, of course, you're at like-minded professionals, and, we're all trying to, like we were talking about earlier, expand our knowledge. And, something that you think of, I'm like, oh, I've been studying this for a while now, but I didn't even think of it like that. So doing those thought interchanges, especially on LinkedIn, has been super valuable for me to continue my research and how to help with AI for good. We actually, I'm slated to speak kind of locally next month on in February about small businesses and how they can use AI, talking about those pain points, talking about how we can take small steps to give that, kind of reassurance, and to utilize AI for resources, for thinking ideas, for thinking ideations and brainstorming, just to kind of get that off your plate. I'm super excited, with a National Association of Government Communicators. I'll be speaking in Palm Springs, California in, I believe, May, talking about misinformation and AI and how we can use AI to help stop, or at least, slow down about misinformation. So I'm really excited about those opportunities, because not only can I give, either my case studies or my thoughts on it, but I can also hear other people, and just like you said, just continue that education and that exchange of ideas.
Yeah, we know that AI is being blamed for the nudity and child and female exploitation on
Yes.
Grok over the past weeks and months. But you rightly say that AI can also be a force for good. It can
Yes.
mitigate all the dangers, but we need the people who have the knowledge of that. Because
Right.
as you know, having worked in policing, criminals are shrewd.
Oh,
They
I'm telling
they
you.
act fast.
And my husband works with our local law enforcement in criminal investigations, and I've actually taught them, what to look for. I mean, it's advancing every day, so I'm sure what I said, you know. Several months ago is completely changed, but just getting that thought into their mind, because a lot of people don't think that it's going to affect them. That affects somebody else. I'm like, if you're not thinking about how people, Sora with, the AI videos and all that. I said, it's not that hard anymore, to fabricate an AI video or AI audio or something. I'm like, but you're seeing, like you said, more and more cases where that bad stuff is coming to light, and you're absolutely right. We need people like you, like me, like other AI for good thinkers to say, hey, you need to start thinking about this and having somewhat of a basic game plan, because this is going to affect you one way or the other.
What's your ambitions for AI this year, like professionally, but also within the city of Pierre?
Oh, absolutely. So, this is one of my favorite questions, because I have learned so much in the past year about, like I said, workflow, productivity. I'll give you a quick example of how I used AI. We had a bull water advisory. And it seems kind of small, but it affected almost half of the population of Perry. And things were happening so fast. I was getting information from different people, and it was such a complicated situation. It's like, how do you explain that to the public, but without, over giving information that they don't necessarily need, but making sure that the right information hits. And also, I knew, of course, as we know as communication professionals, many times that we have to make judgments, right off the bat or off the cuff, and which goes back to why we need to be educated constantly. But what I did was, during that time of everything was kind of chaotic, trying to figure out, I pulled up ChatGPT, and I'm one of those that names my ChatGPT. So her name is Claire. Um, so, it just makes it more personal with that. And I said, Claire, I was like, let's start a thread as like, this is what I did. This is the information that was given to me. And this is why I decided to do the way that I did it, why I communicated the way I did, what channels I used. And I did that throughout the day. It was about a 24-hour cycle of this happening. It was quite intense, because, of course, all the Facebook people knew better than what we were doing. And at the end of it, I asked it, I said, everything that we've talked about, I said, please provide kind of like an executive summary of what information I was given, why I decided to communicate the way I did, um, and that way I could give leadership a synopsis. And it was super simple and super easy. The information was already there. It's just AI made it into a readable summary, so I can, say, this is why I did what I did. This is the information I had. And then I use that afterwards for my own personal professional development and saying, where are some of the issues, the blind spots in that crisis that I didn't see? Or what could I improve better? And just kind of going back and forth with it, I saw where I could improve the next time that a situation happened like that. Now, in a crisis situation, you're not, I mean, unless you're better than me, you're not going to stop and write down all that information, or be in that clarity mind. I could just hit the voice feature on ChatGPT and talk it through. I didn't even have to type it. I could just say, do the voice feature and just talk it out and ramble. And that AI took it and made it into something that was defensible, something that was clear, and then a learning opportunity later for me. So I was floored at what I could use it for and what it could teach me afterwards.
Yeah, conversational AI is one of the top recommendations I
Oh,
give to people
chef's
who are
kiss.
using any large language model. That
Yes.
stream of consciousness is so rich.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Mulhall, who works in crisis in the finance sector, said, you know, hindsight is, 2020 vision,
Right.
but when you're in a crisis, you don't have hindsight.
No.
So being able to have somebody else to bounce decisions off, to
Mm-hmm.
give you deeper critical thinking based on
Yes.
your own expertise, it's a great way to use it, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head as far as critical thinking. Because people will say using AI is lazy or it's the easy way out or, something along those lines. But if you're using it properly, it really makes you think, especially when you're like, what am I missing here? What are the pros and cons of me communicating this way? Or, what else should I be thinking about? Because, I mean, none of us are going to think, no matter how educated you are, how much experience you have, you're not going to think of everything, especially when a crisis happens. Shoot, even if a crisis is not happening and you're burnt out creatively or something like that, so having that conversation with, that large language model that has all this knowledge, I mean, yeah, it's not going to replace what, your specific circumstance is, but to me, it opens your mind where I can start thinking more critically about what didn't I think about? Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Let me expand on that. Let me see how I can do that. So, yes, there's going to be some bad apples like the Gronk, and, bad apples can ruin it, for a lot of people. But if we continue to promote, this is the great things that we can use AI for. Yes, do we need to be wary of it? Of course. Are the machines and AI going to take over everything and be like the movies? No, I don't think so. But that's where people, Joanne, like you, and hopefully me and other thought leaders saying, if we use it in the right way, it's for good and it can help us expand our minds.
And unfortunately, we will only be able to use it for good if we jump in head first, right?
Yes,
The
absolutely.
theory, the theory is no good. You have to put it into action. You have to apply it in
Yes.
your own profession, in your own industry, to have those aha moments that you had. And, I can take people so far, but unless they are
Sure.
willing to go forth themselves and practice, test, and create those use pilots in a safe environment, it's going to be theoretical and nothing's going to change.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing too, that you just brought up. Go ahead and play with it. You have nothing to lose. I'm talking about using it in a crisis situation, but I've been using AI for several years now, and starting to teach others how to use it. But those that don't, they have a great opportunity to just, talk about recipes. Say, I have this, and this ingredient, and, how can I make a good, how can I spice? I will tell you, the other day, several weeks ago, I used to say, how can I like jazz up a grilled cheese sandwich? S- Dumb in the professional sense, but I'm using it and I'm getting comfortable with it and understanding what it cannot do. So that's a golden opportunity now is with this. it doesn't have to be high stakes all the time. It's getting your feet wet, using it where you feel comfortable, and then expanding from there. It's not a all in, have to use it for, major, massive obstacles or issues. That's the great thing about AI. You start where you are, but like you said, you have to actually start and put forth the effort, which is why that's usually my comeback when they're like, AI, that's just, that's boring or that's lazy. If you're using AI right, you're actually getting the full potential and expanding your mind and expanding how you experience it. So I always clap back whenever they're like, oh, that's the lazy way out. I'm like, actually, it's not, because that I actually have to think about it.
I love the analogy that you use, get your feet wet, and I'm going to add to it and wade in, go right up to your knees. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And don't use confidential or proprietary information, but
exactly. Yes.
get your team into a meeting and say, hey, what do we want to fix? If we had a junior communications
Hmm.
executive that was being paid, $40,000 or whatever, what
Hmm.
would we get them to do, and how can we train it? Because local authorities, like Perry, you don't have a lack of information. You have so much information, and AI is the perfect companion for better dissemination, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's also a great tool on how to disseminate that. Because just as well as I do, government, there's a lot of jargon. It's always complex. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, what looks like a simple decision is not. There's a lot. There's either laws, state, federal laws you have to do. There's your own ordinances. I mean, it's never an easy decision, but how do you communicate that to a public that has a very short attention span or does not understand all the intricacies that go into a decision? You can use AI to say, hey, here's this complex issue. How, this is my audience. This is my demographic I'm trying to communicate this with. How can I do that in a meaningful way that is meaningful to get your message out, but also that is meaningful to them? Because if they don't understand it and it's not meaningful to them, more than likely they don't care. Their eyes will glaze over, it'll go over their head. It's the typical government communication. We're going to flash you with all this jargon and complex. It's not how we want to work. We want to take complex issues and tell it, and give that to AI to help us become better communicators for that audience that matters the most.
Yeah, and it's never been easier to increase the output and the standard of
Yes.
your communications from small teams. But overall, Tabitha, are you optimistic in 2026 as we start out this conversation at the beginning of the year?
Oh, absolutely. I am full on into AI. I started last year and this year because, I've seen those little aha moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing tool. Why are people not using it? Yes, there's some fear. Yes, there's worries that it's too technical. But that's where we come in as communications professionals and AI thought leaders is, you know, we need to be those ones, like you said, is telling people how easy this is, and how we can expand our thinking by using AI. And I read an article just recently about how, last year and when, open AI became a massive thing in our culture and our communities, and saying it's more than writing an email now. That was the breakthrough. That was what everybody knew it, a lot of people knew it for. But now AI is being integrated more fully into what we do, into our personal lives, into our professional lives. It's not about just saying what the most basic capability is now. It's how can we use it for good? How can we train others to know what that good is and what the pitfalls of it as well. I mean, of course, AI is not perfect, but how can we use it to help us be better people, to better communicate? That's what we need to dive a little bit deeper into. And that's what I'm really excited to explore this year.
Well, what a powerful way to end this conversation when you said, and I agree with you, that AI is totally embedded in our cultures.
Yes.
and in our communities. There is no going back or rewinding from this.
No, not at all. And honestly, I don't want it to because we do know, how powerful of a tool this is and how useful it is, and that's what I really want to let people know. It's an amazing thing. And I think that we're lucky in so many ways that we're kind of, in this type of evolution.
Yeah.
It's just super exciting, and I can't wait to see how it impacts us and it affects us, but also how we can use it for good.
We are living through history, Tabitha, for sure.
Yes,
And it
it's
is,
amazing.
it is, remarkable that we will be able to tell our grandchildren that,
Yes,
we were there at the beginning of AI and life without AI. I mean, what? Yeah.
they'll never know. I mean, it's kind of
No.
like, you know, when I tell my children about we didn't have the internet, my whole lives, it's going to be just like that, and it's going to be amazing to see how it evolves. But especially with thought leaders like you, Joanne, I mean, and the research going into it, I mean, there's a lot of good people that are trying to make sure that this is, as good as we can make it. And just the evolution of it, it's just fascinating and exciting.
Well, listen, we should have another conversation in 12 months and see how far AI and
Absolutely.
ourselves have progressed. Tabitha, before I let you go, where can people find you? Where do you want to direct them if they want to reach out to you?
Sure, absolutely. So just like you said, I'm on LinkedIn. Of course, Tabitha Clark. And then I also am launching a brand new website, which is tabm as in maryclark.com. So just kind of also using that as a way to continue the research and show my findings. And just really great to connect with anyone. I'd love to begin a conversation on LinkedIn or through my website, and just super excited for that thought process.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me. Wishing you and your family a great 2026.
Thank you. Same to you, Joanne.